Welcome back to Grassroots Radio Colorado. This is Chris Cook. I've got Andy Pate in the studio, and we've got Mark Baisley on the phone, Vice Chair of the Colorado GOP. Mark, we're talking about rebranding the GOP. Are you in?
And Mark, we'd like you to have it done by the end of this show, if you don't mind.
That would be great.
We expect results, for crying out loud.
Yeah, that would be great.
What a great intro. So let me just put it like this. I'm in.
Okay.
Yay.
All right, good. So you recognize, from where you're sitting, obviously you recognize the need for a rebranding effort, that we have to really kind of change how we're doing things.
No kidding. Yeah, I got to start on the inside, and so it's so that it's not just the veneer, so that there's some genuineness behind it all. You better believe it.
Authenticity, keyword of the day.
Yeah.
Mark, can I throw a question at you?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to set it up for a moment here. Sorry about this.
You might want to duck.
Yeah.
Hey,
well,
gotta go.
I want you to know, hey, thanks for coming in, Mark. Next caller. Here's my question. First of all, do you like the doorway I'm talking about? A doorway of liberty. People can come in knowing they're coming into, if you come into conservatism, you're coming into a place where, as long as you believe in the liberty of others, we'll hear you out.
It's a safe place.
It's a safe place. It's a happy place. We dance through meadows holding hands. Actually, that's more libertarian.
Yeah, that's a little more.
Andy, I have always loved your invitation to reason, is kind of what that is. And it's anyway. But your messaging and your approach, which is a very loving approach to folks that don't hold us on the Republican side in real high esteem, I like it a lot. I think that we all need to be paying attention to your messaging and what Kris emphasizes in all of that. And anyway, Kris, I appreciate that you bring Andy and his wife on regularly. It's just so smart for all of us.
Well, thanks, Mark. I mean, I always say there aren't too few of us. There are too few who know they are us. And I want to awaken the conservative in everyone. Well, here's my question. Like I said, let me set this up. If people come in through that door right now, if you go in through the front door of somebody's house and you see everybody screaming at each other, you feel repelled. You want to run back out the door. Right now, they're seeing two things. They're seeing leaders pull power trips, okay, using their power to wall out dissent, silence dissent. And we saw it in Mississippi. We saw it some in here with Tancredo's race and so forth.
Yeah.
They see that on one side. On the other side, they see my people, the Tea Party, basically saying, we've had it with you. And suddenly we become very demanding, and if you aren't totally my way, you're out. And so both sides are saying we want to control the end product here. How are you, sir, because in your position, how can you start to break through and lead the way out of that? And who can take the first step?
I hope I began that effectively on Saturday when the chairman of Douglas County Republicans, Craig Steiner, honored me with the opportunity to speak to Douglas County Republicans. Although, boy, that crowd was a bit of a mix. It was an amazing crowd. We had 2 congressmen in there, a couple of state senators, and a lot of elected officials showed up for that. And I'm so thrilled to be engaging with y'all on the air on this one, because this was very much what I was thinking when I wrote that speech, when Craig invited me to speak to that group.
What was it on?
It was on Andy Pett and his messaging.
That was a good lie. Now, what was it? But thank you.
Well, I used a metaphor that I won't bore you with here, except let me say the point of my speech, and I would like to share the way I kind of backed into that, or at least built the frame around it. But the point I was trying to make in that is that we will come at each other as we do now, almost naturally, because we don't have our eyes focused on the same point. And so I was trying to give everyone in the room, say, okay, the bad guys are not here inside, not here in the room. The bad guys are over there. There's certainly a couple of factions represented here in the room, but how do we come together? We come together when we share the same goal, when we share the same vision. So let's start where we can agree, and let's run towards that, and I think the rest of it will just kind of fall in place.
Do you see it happening?
Slowly. I mean, I'll tell you this. I didn't know how I was going to, what kind of response I was going to get. But standing around afterward, no one came up and argued against what I said. I got a whole lot of more from the other side, and the Facebook responses have all been positive. So I think it was a good start, but I think that message needs to continue, and I need to be augmented by people who have better communication skills than I do, and let's keep going.
Well, Mark, I think you have fantastic communication skills, so don't discount yourself there. We're speaking with Mark Baisley. He's the vice chair of the Colorado GOP. This is Grassroots Radio Colorado. Mark, I think part of the key, and Andy, chime in on this as well. Part of the key that I see that needs to be implemented in order for us to be authentic. And I mean, this is not just a personal wish list. This is not just because I want to see what all the inner workings are. But I believe that the authenticity that is required for the integrity that the GOP really ought to stand for means that we have to be transparent. Mm-hmm. We absolutely have to be transparent from the highest levels all the way down to, city council. I mean, it has to be. We have to be the folks who are absolutely above reproach, our integrity, our message, the way that we act, the things that we do, all right on. And we failed to do that so much and to come above board so much. How do we address that?
Was that for me or for Andy?
Well, that's for you, Mark.
Well, I'll tell you where I started. And by the way, what a great place to start that you just introduced. I think that, so good. I actually started with my aerospace background and talked about the beginnings of life and the beginnings of the universe, the Big Bang Theory, and how the universe has unfolded, and made the point that life itself is simply impossible. It cannot exist. And I gave a lot of scientific evidence of why life cannot exist in the violent universe that is constantly in a state of decay, decomposition, and second law of thermodynamics and entropy and all of that, and then said...
Only you could incorporate the second law of thermodynamics into politics, Mark.
I did.
Okay. I'm really sorry I missed that now.
and then made the point that it's evident, at least to me, I can see no other way that we were designed to exist by a creator intentionally for some reason. We have a purpose. We have a design. And the reason that the United States works so well as it does, why we call it the exceptional nation, is because the founders back in the summer of 1776 tapped into that design better than any other founding principles had before. So if that's the case, then we recognize that we have a creator, and we recognize that the creator gave us a design to pursue as we govern ourselves. And reflected in that are what the founders left to us, this 240 or so years ago, in a Judeo-Christian nation with a secular government. So I moved towards that. Let's look at those two. In the Judeo-Christian nation is recognized in our Declaration of Independence, and our secular government is laid out for us in our Constitution.
Right.
So how do we tap into that? How do we pursue those two and keep that balance right? So the two goals that I presented, one for each of those. One is the Principles of Liberty from our friends at the Principles of Liberty, Rich Bratton, Lori Bratton,
right.
and lay out those 8 principles: personal responsibility, property rights, free markets, limited government, state versus federal balance of power, fiscal responsibility, equal protection, and rule of law, and uphold the Constitution of the United States and the state of Colorado. So that's what we can do in support of the secular piece. That's our instructions for that. And then the other side, our Judeo-Christian background, where we need to look at our Creator who designed us to work, to operate like that, what are the rules for that? And I pulled that right out of the Judeo-Christian Bible, which is the only one that would, the only God, the only creator that would apply to the description in the Declaration of Independence. And I have 4 statements from the Bible: do justly, love mercy, walk humbly with the Creator, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and all your mind, love your neighbor as yourself, and lastly, the punchline of Ecclesiastes, fear God and keep His commandments. So challenge everyone in the audience and challenging each other. Do we believe this stuff? If we do, as the kind of the highest goals, this is before we get to party platform and how to behave within bylaws and that sort of thing. Let's agree on that and run towards that, and the rest, I think, will come together. But I think we need to get back to those basic.
Well, we need to get back to defending everything that you just said, which very, very, very little of which I see actually being defended by anybody that we've actually elected to office, with a few rock star exceptions, and there's only a few. So, Mark, when we come back, let's and Andy, let's turn our vision outwards, and let's talk about how we take the Republican Party, we make it palatable, we make it attractive to the folks who are sitting in that vast middle. We've made it simple. It's the far side conservatism now, the gifted kid pushing against the door that he's supposed to pull. This is the one image that always sticks with me. We've made it simple. We're trying to make it inviting. How do we make it connect? So we'll go ahead and discuss that when we get back. If you have any thoughts you'd like to chime in, you can always reach me on Facebook as well. It's facebook.com/Grassroots Radio Colorado. I'm Kris Cook with Andy Pate. We've got Mark Baisley, Vice Chair of the Colorado GOP, on the line. This is Grassroots Radio Colorado on KLZ 560. KLZ 560.